witnessing the exodus of doctors, which I spoke about earlier. We're talking about the GVC stories, a deep look at the first movers and all of that. And I'm also seeing the example of India, which you mentioned earlier, and Kenya. Can you really dissect this for me quickly?
Well, I think medical professionals is interesting, and it is a concern because you need medical professionals in your own country on that. I think what we would say about this is, again, there's enough young people who are smart enough to become medical professionals, whether it's nurses or technicians or doctors, etc. I mean, there are other countries that have faced this issue, and what they've done is they have realized that they need to train a lot of doctors, some of whom are going to go abroad and send remittances, some of whom are going to remain in the country. And a very good example of this is Cuba. They recognize they're going to lose doctors, so they train twice as many doctors as they need. The ones that go send money, connect to the rest of the world. The ones that stay serve the medical needs. And of course, if the whole country gets more prosperous in better conditions, people are going to be more likely to stay. But the issue for us is not trying to restrict the diaspora immigration. The issue for us is it's much cheaper just to provide this brain capital, this education, than try to build the Dangote refinery or build out some of the physical infrastructure on that. And yet we still are investing in the wrong things. But specific on the medical issue, we should be training a lot more nurses, a lot more doctors. Now, I think one other issue that's starting to rise up on everyone's agenda is, can we partner with some of the countries where we send people to create a system that is more effective for both parties? So to give an example, there are many people leaving for Canada today, different professions, but including medical professionals. Could we partner with the Canadian government and the healthcare system there to say, okay, they'll help train 200,000 nurses, 5,000 of them, 10,000 may go to Canada, but we still have 190,000 here. That sort of partnership is something I think that we need to start to examine so we get both effects happening at the same time. But it all comes back to, we have the raw brain capital, the raw brain power in this country. If we just invest in young people, they're going to find the roles around the world, whether they're in Nigeria or elsewhere, that support prosperity in this country.
Now, okay, we've talked about India. How about Kenya, the Kenyan experience?
Well, Kenya, of course, is a smaller country, and you tend to think of them as not so advanced in focus on education as many parts of Nigeria are, investment in it. But actually, they've made real leaps and bounds. They're also going down the strategy of exporting services. So they can export some physical things. They're doing very well in coffee and horticulture, et cetera, which we have struggled with. But in addition, they now are also exporting more and more of these services, so the BPO, the call center. I mean, one thing, maybe people haven't heard this, I've read this, that in the United States there's a thriving market to cheat as a college student by just having someone else write your essay. But of course, there's software now, you can't reuse the same essay, so everyone has to do a new essay. But the people who actually write those essays are apparently larger in Kenya, because they're smart enough, well-educated enough. So that's an export of brain power. The person staying in Kenya, they're earning US dollars, doing something that's effectively illicit on that, supplying a US college student with a paper. But they have the brain power to do it, and the young people who are educated enough to do it. So not that I want us to start to write papers for other people, but there's enough legitimate work out there, like the chart you have up there, that we can absorb. We can absorb it. We put out the number 2 million young people, and if we had 2 million young people inserted in these sorts of global value chains, the entire economy would be transformed. Every industry would be transformed, because we'd be building houses, we would be driving entertainment, people would be supporting healthcare and education for their parents and others, as I mentioned a bit before.
Now, this is even the next stuff I want to talk about. Can we quickly take that slide, guys, quickly? Because what you've also done is you've been able to itemize where we can actually, the skills required. You take a look at call center outsourcing, animation, BPO, legal insurance. What's that? What's BPO?
A business process outsourcing.
Okay, business process outsourcing, then programming. Can you just take us through this? Are you saying that we can begin to take a look at some of these things? Because we're even having young people even the
this is happening. So call center outsourcing, it was mentioned in the paper, Outsource Global is a woman, Noel Hassan.
Yes.
It's based in Abuja and Kaduna. It's got over 1,000. So they do, and I've been to the well, they have a number of physical locations, but I've been and I've watched them do the call center outsourcing. They have clients in the U.S., clients in Canada, clients in the U.K. As you can see on the graphic, it's a little bit of a lower-end skill requirement, so the pay is a bit lower, but we're still good pay by Nigerian standards. Then you move up the value chain, so animation and gaming. So what happens on this is these are all teams that are working together. And if you think, for example, of animation in Japan's very advanced, or Korea's very advanced in producing these anime movies, but now they're outsourcing more and more, but Indonesia's benefited from that. Young people in Indonesia can do it at a lower cost, but still a high wage versus Indonesia. Then we move to business process outsourcing. And what we're finding, as I said, is many things can be done remotely that you thought had to be done physically. So legal services, and Amal's company, Outsource Global, offers legal services. And in fact, the legal services, they don't even come to the office. They themselves work from home. So the Outsource Global doesn't have to go to the expense of a physical office for that. Insurance is happening. Accounting services, I mean, obviously as PwC, we need to think about this too. How do we participate in these global value chains remotely? We can have associates here who do work for other places, and we're earning FX for the country. But it also ties into this integration, because of course it would de-risk it for someone may want to go, and maybe what happens is we organize a system where they can work with a Canadian company doing Canadian accounting work. Everyone could get to know each other. They could know a little bit about Canada from abroad before making the decision to JAPA. And of course, it would then also help the Canadian immigration officials, because on the resume they've worked 2 or 3 years actually for a Canadian company. They know a lot about it on that. So I think that there's a way that these things fit together. And of course, we have, as I said before, software developers programming, which is the largest number that we put out, 1.5 million. But I mean, that's eminently doable. It's going to be 42 million. And we produce 7 million babies a year here, a significant share. And one of the things that is happening is, including Outsource Global and a few others, they have figured out how to take someone with a high school or a bit of university education and in a year or less turn them into programmers that can fit into global value chains. So that's extraordinary.
Okay. Doctor, we have to go now, but of course for the conclusion for the report, and let me just take our views through this. Your conclusion is that the Nigerian population is young and vibrant. Brain exports is a solution that can unlock the potential of this dynamic asset class. PwC is also of the view that one takeaway is that Nigeria needs to start treating education as an infrastructure for development and not a social service, especially digital education, as screen-based interactions have become as fundamental as reading and writing. Brain export workers may be complex for the government to tax directly, still the advantages outweigh that concern. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you, Nancy. It's always a great pleasure to be with you.
Thank you.
Great show.
Thank you. That's so much we can take. PricewaterhouseCoopers, the report on Nigeria's brain exports. I think this should be in the hands of government agencies and all of that. Doctor, I hope, of course it's online, so, but I hope you can interact at least with government so that they can take a look at this and read through. And for those coming in, 2023.